At 7-8, the Vikings would need a tiny morsel of help to get into the postseason if they win their remaining two games. That is between the four games involving the Rams and Seahawks. The Vikings would need the Seahawks or Rams to lose one of those games, while the Vikings won two games in a row. If they want to get the 6th or the 7th seed in the postseason, we shall see. But that's the first thing I have on my mind tonight that I want to ask you about, Raun. Do you think that this Viking season is kaput? Or actually, Raun left us for just a second here. I'm going to start with you, Janik. Do you think this Viking season is effectively over, or do you still have that hope that, hey, they can win these two, and then one of the other teams will probably lose?
I mean, let's be real. The season was over when Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. So they might get into the postseason, but they will not go on a crazy win streak and and do some damage in the playoffs. They're just not good enough for that with a backup quarterback. They might be that with Kirk Cousins, but he's not there. So I guess the season it's basically over.
Okay, so you certainly you want them to sneak in, wiggle in, and then go to the Lions or the Eagles. You just don't have much optimism, or are you just indifferent about the outcome of the season now in general?
I always want them to win, but I don't think they can win enough games. They might beat the Packers, they might beat the Lions, but they are not going to beat the Eagles or 49ers or whatever in the playoffs. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm I'm basically almost in off-season mode at this point. Maybe they can change my mind and on Sunday. We'll see.
Yeah, they really hurt themselves in the last 2 weeks, Bryant, when they lost to the Bengals, coughed away a 17-3 lead, and then had too many turnovers against the Lions. So again, to reiterate, they need to win their final two games against the Packers and then the Lions. And then if the Rams or the Seahawks lose a single game in the next 2 weeks, then the Vikings will get in the postseason. Are you like Janik, where you think that probably not going to happen, or do you have more optimism than that, Bryant?
Doesn't play the Lions again.
Yeah, they play them, and at that point, there's a small chance the Lions will have already locked away their seed and might rest starters, but that's just a
That's
maybe
what I
right
want
now.
to say. So it
Yeah,
really depends on that. Like if the Lions was fighting for like a number one seed, then I can see. But other than that, if they're not, they're somewhere like in three, two, three or four. Well, three or four, and then they'll probably rest starters. So it really comes down to that last game. But first, you got to get past Green Bay. Because if you don't get past them, then it doesn't even matter. And then you I don't know, you're still just playing that whole game of relying on somebody else to lose. So I really couldn't tell you.
the good news about relying on somebody else to lose is they're going to know by the time this weekend's game kicks off if the Seahawks or the Rams had lost. So they'll have a little added motivation knowing that, all right, I mean, no matter what, they're going to have a chance if they beat the Packers to scoreboard watch in week 18. But yeah, right now it's take care of your own business and then have one
But
single thing happen.
like
Raun,
Yannick said,
yeah,
though, I feel like even if they get there, it's like they just got there. I don't really see them going too far in the playoffs.
yeah, I don't really even know if the most optimistic of Vikings fans are like, no, we're sitting on this big run with the quarterback who throws all these
Yeah.
interceptions. Ron, the Vikings Packers game is basically an elimination game, and I was telling Bryant when you hopped off for a second there that losing to the Bengals and Lions really messed this thing up. Winning simply one of those games would put them in the driver's seat to get in the postseason. So I want to know from you. This group doesn't sound terribly optimistic. Do you think this season is basically over?
I mean, as much as I think and hope that we win on Sunday, it just seems like every step of the way there's something that happens that it's like just catastrophic. Like whether it's Jefferson or starting off 0-3 with all the turnovers, Jefferson getting hurt, us starting to go on this roll, Kirk getting hurt, and then little lightning in a bottle with the backup quarterback, and then that goes away. Then kind of the same. It seems like this is just one of those where destiny's against us, like as if for the last 70 years it hasn't been against us anyways. But I mean, I don't know what to think because it's tough. It's not like, if it's not like we're fielding our normal roster out there, like then I would feel confident with, any step of the way. But yeah, I don't, like Brian said, I don't see them winning anything in the playoffs. And obviously I want them to get in just, because to give us that little glimmer of hope. But it seems like a lost season. Like in a lot of ways, it has a lot of parallels, Brian, to that 2010 season. Like maybe not as south. Like I know you guys had a lot of stuff between Brett Favre off the field and the dome collapsing and all of that, but it seems like they were just anytime they got in a rhythm, it was taken away by something or another.
Yeah, and then the Vikings lost TJ Hawkinson for the rest of this season and probably some section of 2024 to a really bad knee injury. DJ Wanham's also out. That's on top of Kirk Cousins, Cam Akers, you name it. It's a complete infirmary. I actually do think that they have a better shot at getting into the postseason. I'm anxious to see who they name at quarterback, because I've become, along with Janik, I've become utterly convinced that what you see from Nick Mullins, none of this is unusual for him. Like, I'm pretty sure by now, if a coach could have curtailed his gunslinger mode, which results in interceptions, they would have done it by now. So if they roll with Mullins again, I expect an exact repeat. Now, the only difference could be if the defense showed up this week, then perhaps Mullins doesn't have to go into total hero mode. If they're trying to somewhat protect the lead against the Packers, then that could result in a win. But if they do roll with Mullins, I don't think, he's magically going to be disciplined, because, the guy is already a veteran. He's been in the league. He was undrafted in 2017. I don't think he's going to turn into this secure option. I just think he is who he is, and it's fun to an extent. You just need a really, really good defense if you're going to have a dude sling it like that. Speaking of quarterbacks, we're on a little cliffhanger if you still care about this season, because the head coach, Kevin O'Connell, basically said we're evaluating all three. It could be Josh Dobbs, it could be Nick Mullins, it could be Jaren Hall. Ron, I'm going to go back to you. If you were in charge, knowing everything that you do, I guess the only thing you don't know is how good Jaren Hall looks in practice. What would you do right now, trotting out against the Packers on New Year's Eve?
So I would still stick with Mullins until and as long as you have a shot to make the playoffs. I think you roll with Mullins. Like you said, you live with that gunslinger mentality. Hopefully you can corral when he's about to be sacked or tackled, that he just throws it up for grabs. It's okay to take a sack. It's okay to get tackled with the ball in your hands. That's fine. The other ones, that's going to happen because they're, he's a backup quarterback. Missing throws or whatever, those are going to happen. But I don't think you're going to get lightning in a bottle with Jaren Hall and go on a miraculous playoff run. And I don't think you're doing him any favors by trotting him out there without the number 2 wide receiver, the number 1 tight end, the running game that's been struggling, and who knows about Brian O'Neill. So I don't think you can get a good gauge on his ability with kind of the hamstrung nature of the offense as it is. So I think you just roll with the veteran and live and die with that. And if you live to see week 18 with, a shot at the playoffs, you keep going with that.
And I'll reiterate, and it'll sound like a broken record, if the defense for the Vikings didn't just collapse against the Bengals for some unknown reason and then didn't look like shit last weekend against the Lions, Mullins would be 2-0 with that quarterback record, because, you're banking on the defense being as good as it was for about a month and a half, and suddenly it's back to where it was for the first 3 weeks. They can never do both sides at the same time with this brand, this 2023 Vikings. When the offense is starting to cook, the defense isn't very good, and vice versa. Bryant, what do you think? Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, or just go with the rookie option for development's sake?
It really depends on what you're trying to get out this season. If you're looking ahead, then just go ahead with the rookie, get him some time, and you still hang in there. I don't know. At this point, I'll just go with the rookie.
Yeah,
and see what he can do. And just
as a player. As a player, would that be something that you'd want to see? You have a veteran who's kind of at least
clearly,
been there and give you a chance.
Has been in there. We've seen what they can do, and let's just give the rookie a chance at this point.
Okay. For me, when we had our initial debate, which was right when Dobbs started to So I think heading into the Raiders game in the bye week, in fact, I said my opinion was I wish they would just go with Jaren Hall the rest of the way. But I did it from like a selfish angle. I'm not the head coach. I just write about the team. So I knew, like Janik said about 10 minutes ago, they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year. So if they hold Jaren Hall in a relatively high esteem, then yeah, let's play him. Let's see if he's any good. Now, Kevin O'Connell says every week that we're going to play the best quarterback who helps us win the game. He's not, he doesn't care about, tanking or the draft pick. The head coach has to care about winning games. That's his job. So although I would go with Jaren Hall and would have 3 weeks ago, I'm going to guess that they just stick with Nick Mullins and hope that the defense is good enough that you don't need him to lead a comeback and then end up throwing interceptions. Janik, what would you do? Would you go back to Dobbs, stick with Mullins, or try out Hall for a couple games?
I would stick with Nick Mullins. He has proven to be able to lead the offense and it's still functioning with him on the center. He throws for 400 yards. He will throw 3 picks. We all know that, but he's the guy that can put the ball in Jefferson's hands. Dobbs has proven he cannot do that. I don't know how good Hall is. I guess only the coaching staff knows. If he's ready, throw him in, sure. If not, stick with Mullins and hope the defense improves. Hope he can make the necessary throws to Jefferson, to his playmakers, and hope he doesn't throw every other pass to the defense.
The next thing I want to touch on, and this came out right before our show, Bryant, I want to go down the list here. There were 15 guys that were named as Hall of Fame finalists for the class of 2024. And when I first glanced at the list, I think a lot of them, like are friends with. So I'm going to go down the list and you tell me if you're cool with the guy, if you know him, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Antonio Gates?
I don't really know him.
Nope. Julius Peppers?
Absolutely.
Devin Hester?
Of course, yeah.
Torrey Holt?
I know of him, but not that well.
Reggie Wayne?
Of course.
Andre Johnson?
You didn't play with him in college, did you? Reggie
I
Wayne?
did.
Was he there?
Yep.
Okay.
He's a year ahead of me.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it overlapped.
Mm-hmm.
Andre Johnson?
Absolutely.
There's a theme here. Jared Allen?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Patrick Willis?
The
linebacker, 49ers. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know him.
Fred Taylor?
I know Fred, yeah.
He's been on the show. Dwight Freeney?
Yeah. Automated to the finalists.
The finalists. Yep. Darren Woodson. He's before your time.
No, Darren who played like for the Oakland Raiders.
Cowboys. No, that's Charles Woodson.
Oh, I'm thinking about Charles. Oh no, I don't really know Darren.
Yeah, Darren was when I was a kid on the Cowboys teams. Rodney Harrison.
Yeah. Wait, from the Colts?
Patriots, Chargers. The safety.
Oh no.
Okay.
I'm thinking about Marvin Harrison. Sorry.
Yeah. Jerry Evans.
Jerry Evans. No.
Jerry Evans. Yeah. He was a guard for the Saints for a long time.
Around
your time, I think.
Eric Allen.
Eric Allen, I know. Yeah.
And Willie Anderson.
And I know Willie. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So this was confirmed. I think you knew about 75% of these dudes.
Wow.
Yeah. So with I'm gonna guess that half of the dudes that get in, you're gonna either be friends with them or be an acquaintance, which is really cool.
Right. So it sounds like there was about 3 hurricanes, so at least one will get in.
Yeah. Wasn't there more? Was there 4 or 5, or was it only 3?
I see Reggie Wayne, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson.
Yeah.
I think that's the 3. And then so 3 of the 15 as well have been on this show.
Yeah.
Like, I know Fred Taylor was on before I was a part of it, but then Devin Hester we had and Jared Allen. So that's quite a list of names that again, like we talk about all the time with the connections with Bryant and whether he played with them or in college or the pros. It's a hell of talent that's on that list. So
and the thing about I play with like a lot of
it's interesting to see like
Huh?
One day I'm gonna put together, like, I'm just gonna go on the Pro Football Focus and get that list of all your teammates, and I'll mark down all the notable ones, because I find it hard just off the top of my head thinking of it. But I have a hard time finding any 53-man roster that would be a list of you and your
Oh,
teammates.
right.
Like, because again, you get
Oh,
far,
like
you
how I
get like
did
it's,
that day.
because anyone you had teammates in, that's
Yeah,
what
that
got
would
me
be
thinking
tough.
about it. It's I guarantee that it might be the best
Like I
team you
get
can put
far,
together
Randy
on
Moss. I
paper
get
of,
like a lot of good
a
people.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adrian
Adrian
Peterson, like,
Peterson.
yeah, and through the college days and everything, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the
One day,
network,
one day when I get time, I'll do that.
the network is extensive. There's no doubt.
You guys can post it to Vikings territory.
Yeah,
Right.
the dream team. All right, so we got the quarterback established. I think we have kind of talked ourselves into believing that it will be Mullins again. If they did go back to Dobbs, I'd really have to hear the rationale why. I don't know why he would be different this time around than the Raiders game, other than restarting the chaos meter. Maybe that would do wonders for Dobbs. But the next thing I want to ask you guys about here heading into week 17 is kind of looking back in the season. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Raun. So far, through a 7-8 record with a roller coaster, of course, what has been the best moment of the season? Hopefully it's still to come, but I doubt it. What's been the top moment that you'll remember when you're, chilling at the house in July looking back on this season?
Man, it's hard to say if there's like a defining moment, because like you said, it's been so up and down. Like, there hasn't, you haven't been able to ride those highs long enough, or, because again, something always seems to happen. I think overall though, from looking back at it, say 10 years down the road, when we're talking about the one that got away with, if Cousins would have stayed healthy in this defense, who knows what would have happened. I think ultimately the defining characteristic from this season will be the kind of the adversity that they had to deal with, that they were able to overcome. The fact that they still have a shot at the playoffs with everything that has happened, that to me is pretty impressive. And that, while I may criticize O'Connell's play calling and offensive coordinator skills from time to time, I think that is a true testament to him as a head coach on being able to. I mean, Brian, you could probably speak to it. It's probably easy to lose a locker room. Like, I'm sure with Leslie Frazier, or even like in the Brad Childress times, like if something comes up, it can be easy to lose that locker room, but we never seem to have that internal strife with this team. So that overall would be the thing I take away from this, assuming that O'Connell, goes on for some future long-term success with this team. This, I think, is a big learning point for him.
Is that a real threat, Bryant, when you lose your QB1? They didn't have the offensive player of the year, Justin Jefferson, out for 7 weeks. Do dudes start to, get in their feelings and say, well, what the hell, man? Or is it always next man up?
It's next man up. And everybody normally rallies behind the next man up, like, what I'm saying? And encourages him to go out here and, get his playbook and do good, because, the guys still want to win. So we don't pack it up just because of one or two players. You really just hope that this next person up who has the opportunity is ready to take on that challenge and step up and, play well.
And in spurts, the quarterbacks have done that. It's just, it hasn't been one guy. It's been like, the opening salvos of a couple guys. Janik, your favorite moment of the season through 15 weeks.
Favorite moment, probably Josh Dobbs' game-winning touchdown against the Falcons. Season was basically over just 1 week before that, and then he comes in, doesn't even know a playbook or his teammates, and just goes out and looks absolutely terrific. I think that's my favorite moment of the season. Then I ordered his jersey, and then everything went to shit. So it's probably my fault. That's my favorite moment.
When I typed up this discussion point, I had a hard time, because I think the Brandon Powell touchdown was like an oh my god, because it just felt so surreal, and that would probably be it for me. But I also want to call out Jordan Addison in general. When I tried to put together a list of this, or I did put together a list for this for Vikings territory on the bye week, I just kept coming up with Addison touchdowns, whether or not it was his welcome to the NFL moment against the Bucs. But the two for me against San Francisco at the end of the first half, when he had no business stealing that, should have just, if anything, it should have been a completion. And then, oh my God, they didn't throw out of bounds. These guys are idiots. But it turned out to be a really sweet touchdown that really redefined what the Vikings could be that season, because we had no idea Cousins would get hurt. And then the following week against the Packers, I believe they had an interception. And then the next play, or the play after that, Cousins connected with Addison for a touchdown. And they went up, was it 24-3 or 21-3? And that was the first time in ages that it felt like the Vikings had a really sweet lead on a team in general, let alone on the road at Lambeau Field. Of course, about an hour later, the catastrophe would strike and Cousins would be lost for the year. But it was really, when I went through this brainstorm, I think it's a testament to Jordan Addison, because one thing after another, I'm like, oh, that is a touchdown was a big deal. And it always seems like he's the guy that's being the game changer. If he can do that as a rookie, and then presumably his starting quarterback won't get hurt every season, it should be a very exciting next 4 years between, Addison and Hawkinson, Jefferson, and whoever the quarterback is, whether that's Cousins or some rookie dude.
One other thing about that Addison piece, it's like he's learning in game, like his mistakes. I go back to that San Francisco game, that first interception where he got the ball stolen away from him, where he probably should have put up a little bit more of a fight. What does he do in the second quarter, like before halftime? He rips the ball right out, where, like, again, he's learning on the fly. And that was one of the things when we drafted him, how I talked about he goes from Pitt to USC, like, and, no learning curve, is just thrown into it and he still produces. So it's good to see that for, a 21-year-old or however old he is to, how often do you see those adjustments come from a rookie, like literally 2 drives later, whatever it may be. So yeah, your point's extremely valid on that.
Thank you. And it's just so cool that between Jackson Smith and Jiba, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, and Quentin Johnson, it seems like the Vikings got one of the good ones, where Quentin Johnson might be trending as the bust of the group. Jackson Smith and Jiba has a high upside. Zay Flowers is already a baller. It's really cool that in that group that went boom, 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 the Vikings got one who's going to be here for the long haul. All right, Bryant, I want to ask you this. We've talked about this probably half dozen times since you and I met, but Packer week for Vikings fans always hits a little bit different. This week just happens to be a de facto playoff game. Whoever loses is pretty much out. How different is it for a Vikings player heading into Packer week at home?
It's just the Packer game in general is just always going to be, I think, a good matchup because it's a rivalry game. So in rivalry games, never matters what the records are of either team. It's always just going to be a hard, fought-out game. A little more incentive, I guess, for both teams because they want to be the team to be able to knock one another out of the playoff contention. So I do think it'll be a great matchup and players giving their all. It's towards the end of the season, so you really got too much to store, because if you lose, you're heading home anyway after one more game. So I think it'll be a great matchup.
Yeah, to all of you fans listening, no matter what your thought is on the upside of the rest of this season, if you're one of those that's like, oh, screw it, they should just lose to get a better draft pick, great. If you think that they're going to start Jaren Hall and go on a magical run or something like that, great. But no matter what, on any of those circumstances, the Vikings and vice versa have a chance to eliminate the other team, because whoever loses is on like this total life support hanger of reaching the postseason. And whoever wins has a nice little chance to get in the dance if they win the following week. So if you want to eliminate your rival, or if you want to find a better reason to cheer for the Vikings, it's to ensure that the Packers don't get in the postseason on your home turf. Ron, one other thing I want to ask you about. So this surprised me a little bit. The point spread with no identity of the quarterback is the Vikings by 2. Does that surprise you at all? I think it would be flipped, or am I looking at it the wrong way?
I guess it really doesn't surprise me a lot because the Packers defense has been kind of in turmoil. And they they've made the likes of like Bryce Young had his best game against them. Baker Mayfield torched him. And there was one other quarterback that had a really good game against him. So, or the Tommy DeVito.
Yeah.
So I can see why the odds makers would do that because the Vikings are at home and the Packers have kind of been struggling against those type of players. So I feel like whether it's any one of our three quarterbacks plugged into that, there's still Jefferson. Like obviously, I don't know if we talked about the effort that he gave on Sunday to try to will us, like that fumble recovery alone, and then you see him gassed at the so when you have the best player on the field on your team at any given time giving that effort, you should be the favorite. Especially when you have a defense that at least is above average at worst. So it doesn't surprise me. Obviously, no Alexander for the Packers. That's gonna hurt them, even though again, he's not as good as he thinks he is. But he's still a very good cornerback. So and it's Jordan Love's first I think it's his first start at US Bank Stadium. So that in itself is a daunting task for the top rivals of our team. So I can see it swinging any which way, but I mean, I don't think it'll end up any more than 3.5 favoring the Vikings.
What happens, Ron, if Kevin O'Connell trots the podium tomorrow and says, "Yeah, we're going to give Jaren Hall a look"? What happens with the point spread?
I think it stays the same. I think the only way it'll move is based on the sharp action type thing of it. So I think the odds makers, obviously, they're always ahead of this anyway, so they have it all factored in, because they want that action. But I feel like they would view it kind of the same way that we as fans are, like where there might be a different spark one way or another, but I feel like the results are going to be the same any one of the three we throw out there, because they're all going to have their opportunities to make mistakes. They all have their opportunities to make big plays. So I think the consolidation of all those things, it puts it right at the -2 that the Vikings are at. So, I don't think the decision will move it at all.
Janik, were you surprised by the spread at all? I am. I think based on the spreads that I've watched the Vikings encounter all year, this feels like a game where it should be the Packers 1.5 or the Packers by 2. What about you, Janik?
I'm not surprised. Both teams are 500 teams. Just they can win against anyone, can lose to anyone. So I guess it's a coin flip. Then you factor in the Vikings home game and you get a 2-point spread. So I'm not that surprised. It might change a little if Jaren Hall gets the start, but I'm with Raun. It's not, maybe just a little bit, but I don't think it really matters who's the quarterback for Minnesota. Brian referred to it. They all gonna go all out and try to win the game. So yeah, I think it's a coin flip game, and plus the home field advantage gives you a 2-point spread.
And that will be prime time on Sunday night, New Year's Eve. And if any of you guys or gals are in fantasy football championships, it'll come down to, for your sake, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, maybe Jordan Love if you're skimpy at quarterback. But yeah, that's the final game of the week.
Josh Oliver.
yeah, you gotta stick him in as your cuff for Hawkinson. Okay, Bryant, what are you doing New Year's Eve? What do you usually do, or what are you doing this year?
I was so focused on my toy drive that I just had on Saturday that I haven't even thought about New Year's at all. So I have no clue.
You said toy drive?
I did a toy drive on Saturday, December 23rd.
Okay.
Great turnout. I partnered up with our radio station here, 99 Jams. I had a write-in for families to write in 99 words or less, why they deserve, to win opportunity for me to take care of their children's wish list. And I did that, as well as had toys for, other people in the community.
Oh, sweet. Okay. And that was in Miami?
That was here in Miami on Saturday. Okay,
cool. So you think this Sunday night you're gonna go out to some sort of party or whatever? Or
I don't know. No. I'm not really in the mood. I don't want to be in Huddy's club coming into the New Year. So I don't know. If somebody has something at their house, I'll do that. I'd rather do that. I'm not going to the club.
Amen. Ron, what about you? New Year's plans?
No real plans. Obviously the Vikings game being, the night game. That's what I'm trying to plan on. And then it's also but then at that point you plan on that, and then it kind of bleeds into the new year. And I don't want to go out for New Year. Like that stage of my life is well past. But yeah, we'll see. Have some drinks and hang out. But I don't even know if I saw the ball drop the last couple of years. Just I fall asleep early. So
Are you going to Wolves Lakers the night before?
I am not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been to a Wolves game all year. Of course, this is the year that we give up season tickets. Yeah.
That is, how long did you had them?
Just like 6 years, something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's still a raw deal when they're even like I think even naysayers have realized like shit, this team is good. But they're gonna.
well, and that's not why we like. I'm a big fan, obviously have been, and I believed kind of in where this direction was going. But
Mhm.
with the two young kids, it's not easy to be like if a game goes unsold, which last year a lot went unsold. I can't just pick them and be like, well, I'm going to go tonight. It's like,
Yeah.
So yeah. But I'm still happy for the success. So
Yeah, maybe that's what needed to happen was for you to get rid of your tickets. That way they'd
maybe
make a championship run. Janik, I already know what you're doing. Janik and I are heading up Saturday morning. We are going to Lakers Wolves. My 40th birthday present. I turned 40, 2.5 months ago, is second row from the court, Lakers and Timberwolves. So now we're just on load management watch. We got to make sure they don't pull any bullshit and sit Anthony Davis or LeBron. I'm pretty sure that all the Timberwolves will play. And then we'll be in our regular seats, Vikings, Packers. My friend Wes Johnson, who's been on this show about 5 times, he's bringing his whole gang. So we're going to have this group of 13 New Year's and at the Vikings game. All right. I think next week, I believe Sally will be back, and we will either be talking about playoff scenarios on how the Vikings can sneak into this thing, or peeking ahead to the offseason, because if they're 7-9, that means all hope is lost, and we're already examining Justin Jefferson's contract and that stuff. But if there's nothing else from you guys got anything?
I do want to ask
Mhm.
Bryant. Obviously, like I don't know how much you pay attention to Browns football or not, but you're Super Bowl winning quarterback Joe Flacco. He's been balling out for them lately. Do you
Oh,
keep
I
in
heard
contact with him at all?
somebody just mentioned it to me the other day and said how well he's been playing.
I think he's something like it, obviously in only the limited games he's played, but he's like either number 1 or 2 in yards per game and in the games he's played. So yeah, he's been keeping them afloat. So fourth quarterbacks can do it.
Right. So, I mean, kudos to
Good for
Joe.
him.
He's still, making his way out here.
Yeah, they've gone from Deshaun Watson to PJ Walker to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, now to Joe Flacco. And I think even if Flacco had a shitty game this weekend, they'd still roll with him the rest of the way, because they're banking on another Ravens redo from 2012 or something like that.
Well, why not go with the guy who's been there? Like
Yeah.
if those are the options that you're choosing from, go with the guy who has done it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think they had Walker and DTR. I know they did on the depth chart, because stylistically it's a similar playbook fit to how Deshaun Watson plays. And then that didn't. I mean, it worked a little bit, but the defense was so good and is so good that once they realized that we're not getting any production, they were just like, well, let's go get Joe Flacco, who's not like Deshaun Watson. And it has still worked. So props to Kevin Stefanski, who was part of the Vikings for 15
Kevin,
16
I know.
Yeah, he's the skipper out there. All right, guys, we'll talk to you in 1 week, and let the show define how exciting that show will be, or if it's a peek into the off season. All right.
Okay.
All right, take it easy.
Have a good one.
Later.
Happy New Year, guys.
You too.